Hey folks, so I want to make a quick video kind of showcasing one of the weirder builds that's come out of my current testing of the small jewels that are available in the game from the new patch. This is the Lone Messenger Cluster Jewel, which gives you the ability to use one Herald and no auras. And I've paired that up with Herald of Purity, and basically accidentally created the fastest boss damage I've ever had in the game, period. Awakener for me takes 10 seconds to go from the end of phase 4 to dead. This build is absolutely ridiculously powerful when it comes to bossing, but it does lack the ability to super quickly clear a map. So I'm just going to do a normal tier beach here, just to showcase how the build works and functions. But that is one of the things that I have to say about this build right away, is that it won't be the best thing for the current league. I have done Simulacrum on it, and basically what ended up happening is on wave 20, I did not get a rare mob to spawn early enough, and it kind of bricked the whole system, so I couldn't do that. But if I could get a rare mob to spawn, Simulacrum wave 20 would be a joke. Writhing Jar does not work with Herald of Purity, so that ends up not being very good for this. But as you can see, the Herald of Purity dudes, once you get them up and running, they just run around bashing everything into pieces. Usually I'm running melee splash with the setup. Right now I'm just running melee fizz, so this isn't even splash. There's a mob and it's dead. Easy boss kill, no problem at all. Just kind of a quick showcase of this, but this is basically the playstyle. You whirl around, you dash around, stuff dies around you super rapidly. You have to look for rare mobs in packs and jump to them, because they will spawn your Herald of Purity dudes the quickest, rather than trying to attack main mobs. So you always go for the rare mob like that, and it works out really well. It's a really fun playstyle. I felt like it was super active and super good. Oh look, the Herald of Purity finally leveled up. I'll talk about that a little bit there, but super nice, super easy. Actually, let's get that third stack of currency if we can there at the end. But not a build I would recommend for the current Delirium setup, unless you're looking for something that super clears bosses, because that is definitely what it is designed for, what it's very good at, and how it works. So let's talk about the build and what kind of went into this abomination of a character. So the whole character started off with Lone Messenger being the focal point. I wanted one aura, or one Herald, and then buff the hell out of that Herald. And then also kind of play around the idea that I'm not going to have auras, I'm not going to have all this stuff. So how do I buff that? The first thing we had to do was get Disciples and Pure Agonies, and we have 4 of those, 4 sets of those. Disciple, Pure Agony, Disciple, Pure Agony, Disciple, Pure Agony. That gives us 4 more Sentinels. Then we have a Helm enchant that gives us 1 more Sentinel. So we're up to 9 Sentinels. So whatever DPS 1 Sentinel does is multiplied to 9. Then, on top of that, we got Rotten Claws and Rotten Claws. So then we also have the Impale system going in. So now we have an 80% chance for the minions to impale. So that's already a massive boost to the DPS, because Impale is kind of broken. Then on top of that, our life is buffered by the Fettle Jewels, which are very nice. Just get some Fettle, some max life, maybe a bit of attributes if you need them, max life if you can find it. This one's very rare. Good flat max life. Not the greatest at, finding easily or cheaply, but the rest of the gear is super cheap, so maybe you can get some wiggle room in there. You don't need Raise and Pillage. That's not a necessary thing. But Call to Slaughter is very nice if you can get that on the jewels. These I just chaos spammed. Basically all of my jewels were self-crafted, and that's one of the weird things about this build, is because you're using the while afflicted by agony jewels. In the process of self-crafting the Disciples and Pure Agony system, I made a bunch of the jewels that the Herald stackers were abusing. So it was very easy for me to make money making the jewels for this build. The build paid itself off before I even made it, in a weird way. Then, to round that out with, we are a Necromancer, because, once again, usually you would do this as a Guardian, but Lone Messenger making it so we only have 1 Herald, we decided to go Necro, because that gives us +2. It gives us minion damage. Then we have corpses, so we take reduced damage. They take more damage. And also we have them getting shocked and chilled. I think I put those two together. So that's why we're Necro. And we're using a Thread of Hope to grab these 3 and these 3. I did path through here originally, but I was a bit point starved, and this worked very well for grabbing that out of the way as well. So then, onto the gear. The main thing to consider is that you just saw Herald of Purity level up while I was mapping, and the reason for that is this guy got to where it is so rapidly, I never really had time to get Herald of Purity leveled up. So I was actually doing all content on a level 19 Herald of Purity. If I got a 21, which I have a bunch of these guys leveling in the background to try to get a 21 Herald of Purity, then I would have a level 32 Herald of Purity. Now that's overkill. That's incredibly overkill. You do not need that. But if you got to it, you would double my DPS if you leveled up all the gyms. And we'll go over that in the Path of Building a little bit later on. So Herald of Purity is linked to Impale, of course. Melee Physical, because that's what we are doing. Brutality, because we're doing Physical. Multi-Strike, they're very nice for the Herald of Purity dudes to have them be multi-striked as a result of them just smashing away really rapidly. And then minion damage. Now normally I would take Melee Physical out and put in Melee Splash if I was mapping and I wanted to have better map clear. That would be the way I would do it. Sorry I showcased that on a tier 10 beach or whatever, but yeah, it does tier 16s, no problem at all, as long as you jump from rare to rare. I'm actually not running Blood and Sand. I was hoping to fit it into the build, but I just don't have the reservation. I was running an Enlightened, and even then it just felt like it wasn't worth it. If I could get a bit more reservation, I could maybe get Blood and Sand in there, and it would feel a little bit better. Now, the other things that we run are Holy Relic and Convocation. Convocation just so we can keep our Spectres alive, and Holy Relic, same reason, just keeps the Spectres alive a little bit better. Our other one is a Meat Shield Carrier Golem using Feeding Frenzy, because I want them getting the Feeding Frenzy buff, and as long as they have the buff, the Herald of Purities do a little bit more damage, and keeping Carrier Golem alive is fairly easy. I just spawn him back constantly. I'm not really worried about keeping him alive in the sense of like elemental resistances, all that. He can die, I can spawn him back, not a problem. Ray Spectre is in the Helm, of course, with the +2 socketed minion gems, with minion life, elemental army, and blood magic. That is so that we can use the Host Chieftain, which is this one here. That gives us frenzy charges. The Carnage Chieftain, this one here, which gives us power charges. And then this dude is the Arena Master from a Drox influenced map. So this guy is a little bit annoying to get. The Host and the Carnage you can find going throughout the game. I don't remember exactly where they were, but I think it's Act 7 Ashen Fields, and then somewhere else. I'm not a Spectre guy, so I don't know those. But the Drox Arena Master every 8 seconds gives a buff for 2 seconds. That gives you movement speed and attack damage, or it's attack speed. So it's very nice to get that Spectre in there. And they stay alive because I'm just spamming Convocation, and I have Holy Relic up. That kind of takes care of them. All I need them to do. Our main attack that we're using is Cyclone with a cast while channeling, Desecrate, and Flesh Offering. So that constantly keeps us the offerings, which makes our minions get stronger and stronger, and that's just a perfect way of doing that. As far as the rest of it, we're just using Dash and Second Wind for movement. That allows us to move around quite rapidly. It's pretty good cooldown once you get enough dex and all that, so you can get a high level. And then a Molten Shell is on our left click, so that we can keep Molten Shell up all times. And then if we see a pack of porcupines, or we have to dive into a big pack of mobs that are maybe immortal or something, we can pop Val Molten Shell, and that gives us a massive DPS or defensive boost because we are running a Granite Flask. We do have 54% mitigation, and then scale that up by Molten Shell. Other than that, we are using a Mana Flask because mana can be an issue if you have to spin for a long time or summon and then go for a spin. So I just used the Mana Flask. It was just a little bit easier. Consecrated Ground is nice for a little bit of regen for the dudes once again. Most of this is just to keep them alive. And then, you know, your old school Quicksilver, and then, of course, the Healing Flask for the minions so that they can get a little bit more of that recovery. Works very well. As far as the rest of the gear goes, like I said, +1 Sentinel Helmet with +2 socketed minions. You don't need to go +3. +3s are way too expensive, so I wouldn't even bother with it. Weapons are 2 Cold Iron points. There's not really any amazing corrupt you can get on them, so just buy basic ones for about 5C. So the daggers were 5C, the helmet was like 50C. Gloves, buy whatever that has resistances on it. You'll be just fine. If you don't have enough resistances in the beginning to get yourself going, grab a Commander of Darkness. That will buff you right up. You could drop Corpse back for that. Grab Commander of Darkness. You'll be good to go. Belt, same thing. Once again, just need resistances. Just need life. If you could get resist max life, % max life, that would be stellar. But I just couldn't, so I didn't bother with it. The boots, I do use the Fortified Link. That was very common last league for a lot of the Champion, Impale, Flicker Strike, Double Strike dudes. This is just really good because it gives us Fortify uptime when we're cycloning. So when we're going through a pack, we have Fortify. It's just another defensive layer. Then Amulet, we just need the +1 Strength. As you can tell, my Amulet is completely horrible. I could definitely make a better one. I could even make a +2 one, so you get +1 Fizz, +1 Strength. Slap it together, get yourself better at Amulet. That would probably be the best case. Then the other thing is we run an Aspect. Aspects are not considered auras in the sense that they can still be run, even if you are not in lone messenger state. So that's pretty good to do. And then you can run an Aspect of the Spider, or you can run an Aspect of the Avian. I prefer Spider because it's a bit more defensive. Avian works for minions very well as well. So either or. That's kind of a preference thing for whoever is doing the build. Then we are running a Herald of Purity and Sentinel increased damage reservation version of the Circle of Guilt. I used to run 2 of these of the same type. I don't remember where my other one is. Here it is. So I had 2 of them buffed with the life and mana, so they did more reservation, which when I did that would reserve basically nothing for Herald of Agony. Or Herald of Purity, sorry. But the reason I stopped running that is because I was able to pick up one that has vulnerability on hit. So originally I had this 2-link here be cast on damage taken vulnerability, so that I would do cast on damage taken instead of worrying about having it on hit. I was able to pick this one for very cheap, so I ended up switching to that. Usually they go for about 9 Exalt. It's not worth it. Just run cast on damage taken vulnerability and leave it level 1, and you'll cast it just fine plenty of times in this 2-link. So don't worry about it. These are about an Exalt apiece for the double reservations. And if you are running this setup, you can maybe drop something off the link, maybe even drop Meat Shield, and then you can run Arctic Armor because it's not classified as an aura. So that's another thing you can do if you want to set it up that way. My chest piece, I got incredibly dumb lucky on crafting that I got a +1/+1, and then also +1 to intelligence, so it gets +2 from the chest, and then also minion damage gets +1, so everything in this link is basically +1, except for that, which is +2. You don't need this. And the reason I say you don't need this is because, as you saw, Herald of Purity just leveled up. I've been running a 19 Purity this entire time. If you were to grab a level 21 Herald of Purity and just run that, you'd be perfectly fine. There would be no reason for you to try to go to this extreme of a chest. I wouldn't even recommend it. It's way too expensive to craft. So get a good chest that maybe has +1 and max life or something like that, and you'll be just fine. Don't try to go for maximum, unless you're trying to get to like maximum overkill with the build. I think that pretty much covers everything that's in the setup. I'll go over some stuff in Path of Building real quick. But, oh yeah, and we're anointing Ravenous Horde because I couldn't really think of any other anoint to make, and that gives me Onslaught. So, yeah, jewels are easy. Lone Messengers are very cool, very, very powerful. And then in Path of Building, if you want to try to figure out kind of how much DPS you're doing with the whole setup, I'll leave this in the description there. But basically, whatever number you have as the combined DPS, this is Path of Building Fork, times that by 9. And I have 3.5 million, so times that by 9, I'm close to 30 million. That's with a level 19. If I were to actually get all my gems leveled up to 20, I'm at 3.8. If I were to go to 21, I'm at 4. If I were to actually get quality on all my stuff like I'm supposed to, I'd be at 4.37 per Herald of Purity Sentinel, and that times 9. So I'm looking at like, what is it, 38 million or something ridiculous. The damage on this is absolutely absurd, and that's not like any kind of weird bluffed damage. That is actually what it is. We shock because of the corpses, we have the chills, we have the ignites, we have the minions have used the skill recently. I've used that. This is basically the setup that is always going to be the case, and I will leave the 3 clips of me destroying Awakener 4 or Awakener 8 in its 4th phase in like that. As the final little thing here at the end of the video. I would highly recommend this build if you want something that just deletes bosses. Do not do this if you think it's going to be the fastest map clear and you're going to just blow through the game. Probably in that sense the Guardian version of it would be better, and drop Lone Messenger. That way you can get more defenses, more damages, maybe do some low life shenanigans. There's a whole lot of stuff you could figure out that would be better. But if you just want to mess around with Lone Messenger and do something fun with Herald of Purity and just absolutely delete bosses, I cannot recommend this build enough, because it was a pure joy to be able to just delete Awakener that quickly. And yeah, it's fun. It's definitely fun, but maybe just not the Delirium stomper that I think most people are going to be looking for in this league. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'll leave you with Awakener splats. And we shall make more builds. We're working on something other dumb builds that are going pretty well. Peace out, guys.
I am alive.
I'd call that pretty good DPS. I don't have to worry about beams. He's dead before the beams happen. Okay. I would say that is, can we get an insta-kill? Oh no, he was like an inch away from not teleporting. Ah, he teleported right at the last second. Holy fucking loot. GMP Wokener Orb? You fucking lucky son of a bitch. Let me bring you that shit.
I am alive.
And... ah, he did the wrong move. Oh, come on. Damn. He did the wrong move. That sucks. He went into the split face, so I couldn't insta-kill him. No, that's so fucking lame.